Well, this is not a boat accident. It wasn't any propeller, it wasn't any coral reef, and it wasn't Jack the Ripper. It was Lou Diamond.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Hey, Thrive Loud listeners, Lou Diamond here. We are in June, and we are slowly inching out of social isolation, depending on where you are in the country, and starting to get back to some remnants of normal, although that will never be the case. It'll always be something different, something new, which is a good thing. And let's hope you're all safe out there and doing the things you're supposed to do. With that, here at Thrive Loud, we've been very busy. We have had a great deal of content over the past few weeks, months for that matter, with lots of new exciting things. Aside from your amazing episodes of those that are thriving loud each and every day, we've been having a few catch-up episodes. In fact, we kicked off Thrive Loud Live on both Facebook and YouTube with Tammy Evans, who is amazing and energizing. You can catch that out, episode 468. I also did an episode with Doug Sandler, which will be coming to you very soon in the next few weeks, if you missed it online, which was pretty fun. And obviously, we have a ton of the Bedside Reading Authors That Thrive episodes, just like this one with Sharon Ann Ziegler. You're going to enjoy this interview with her on the association. And remember to follow us on Good Pods. That's one of the cooler apps out there for listening to podcasts. If you haven't done so already, it's really very episodic is the best way I can describe it. So you can find the specific episode that you like and share it with your friends, see what they're listening to, comment. You could even connect with the podcast host or even the guest for that matter, if they're on the platform, which continues to grow every day. We had JJ Ramberg on a few months back and talked about how amazing this platform is. And we continue to support it here on Thrive Loud, and go check it out. And you can go follow at Thrive Loud, and you can connect directly to me on the Good Pods platform. Okay, with that, enough of me. Let's get to this fun and engaging conversation with Sharon Ann Ziegler, the author of The Association, pulled from Bedside Reading's Authors That Thrive, here on Thrive Loud.
Welcome to Bedside Reading's Authors That Thrive, a podcast show that provides you exclusive access to top writers around the globe and how they are thriving through their writing, their passions, and their lives. Here's your host, Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to Bedside Reading's Authors That Thrive, connecting you to amazing authors that are thriving through their work and in their lives each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today, we have a mother of 3 grown children and an attorney. She's been practicing law and writing legal briefs, motions, and appeals for more than 25 years. In her debut novel, The Association, she tells a dynamic cerebral tale that describes some unusual and rarely discussed aspects of the American legal system. And she explains how a woman fits into the male-dominated profession. Please welcome Sharon Ann Ziegler. Sharon Ann, how are you today?
Oh, I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing spectacular. And more importantly, I want our listeners to hear more about you. So jumping right into it, this is your first novel, is it not?
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay. So what inspired you to say, you know what, I'm going to start writing a novel and go down this creative path with the legal career that you've had behind you of doing a lot of other more professional legal writing of briefs and changing it into more of a story, if you would?
Well, I do think that over the years that all the briefs that I have written, I think that it's a pretty easy jump from legal writing to novel writing, because each case that you have is like a story in itself, and it definitely lends itself to writing novels.
When you obviously were doing legal briefs, you had some kind of timeline, you had a pretty set schedule, or clients would come in. It was based on a lot of the casework that you had in front of you. When it came,
right.
Yeah, when it came to actually writing a novel, were you as disciplined in your approach to the writing process?
I actually was, and I think that was based on my legal career because we did have hard deadlines that we had to meet, and you couldn't bypass them or you would lose your case. So with what I did when I started to write this book, every time that I had the chance to write, I would sit down at the same place every day. And even if I didn't feel inspired to write like another chapter or even another sentence, I actually just sat down in my chair with my computer in front of me, and then I would edit what I had already written if I couldn't come up with anything new. And then what happened at that point, then you did start to write new stuff. But yeah, every day I would sit at the same time and try to get at least 5 or 6 hours in.
Oh, awesome. So
yeah, so it definitely was disciplined.
Yeah, no, which is great because, a lot of people have a different process. Sometimes they're off creative. The ideas come to them when they do, which is actually my next question. Explain to me maybe what was the inspiration behind the association?
Well, I do think that I know everyone's surprised when they realize that the foundation of the novel is based on it's a property. There's property law involved in it, and I have a lot of experience doing property law work, like real estate closings and just researching in property cases. And what I found out that property law actually affects every single person. And the reason for that is because we all either own or rent our houses, and every person will be affected by it. And I thought that it was just really important. And then the other thing is, I guess I've looked over cases with regard to homeowners associations, and I think that I've read a lot of research about it, and about cases all over the country. And I thought, wow, this is kind of an interesting backdrop because there's so many people that could be involved, and your characters could be developed from the people that are in the association. And I just thought it was a great backdrop. And I think people are surprised by the premise, but they're also surprised how it's not what they thought it would be.
So let's go into, I guess, this part. I'm imagining you've taken a whole series of all the experiences you've come across in your time to hit upon what the story of the association was. Or was there one unique, weird legal loophole or specific component of the legal system that said, wow, that would be a really cool story?
Well, the thing is, with homeowners associations, I do think in general, when you move into a neighborhood, and I think over 300 million people are involved in, homeowners associations. They're all over the country now. I have to check my number. I actually put that number in the book, but is it 300 million? I'll have to double check it. But
I know, but I'm one of them.
I know. And well, the thing is, I do think that there's problems. And I think most people do complain about their homeowners associations, which was shocking to me when I started researching them all over the country. And I'd see all these cases where there was fraud going on and different things like that. I just thought it was really fascinating. And I think most people my opinion is, I think a homeowners association is a really important aspect of American property law. But the reality is I think that the one problem with the homeowners associations in most states is that they're highly unregulated. So when you move into a neighborhood with a homeowners association, you're basically handing over control of your property rights to an association. Like, it's unbelievable. They tell you when you can cut your trees, if you can have like a car, sometimes they tell you what color your curtains have to be on the outside of your house. So all these, and I feel like, sure, if people think that might increase their homeowners' value, but the reality is that my biggest problem is, since they are unregulated, they don't have to open up their books to the homeowners. And I think that could be easily rectified in all states with a simplistic regulation that says the books and records have to be open to every single homeowner at all times. Like, why can't we look at the books?
Yeah, and if you think about it, when you're buying a home, you get the info about the home, the ownership fees, and obviously you could even break down the taxes or anything like that. So having access to that would just be natural, that you should be able to have that easily available. I agree.
And it'd be right. And in terms of the law, it would be so easily to legislate it. And right now, in most states in the United States, since the homeowners associations are nonprofit organizations, they're governed by what's called the nonprofit statute for each state. And the statutes are relatively similar. And basically, if you want to open up the books for your homeowners association, you basically have to allege a proper purpose. And a proper purpose is usually denied by the homeowners association. Then you have to end up going to court, blah, 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 doing the whole bit. So I just think if everybody, and why not? Why wouldn't you open it up? Because every single person should have the right to look at it for any reason that they want to at any time. And then that would actually create a situation where the fraud would be way lessened in these associations.
It's funny, Sharon, you could tell I was going to ask, where did your passion come from writing this? But obviously it's oozing out of you as you're telling your thoughts on where things can go. I did want to ask you, though, as you were writing this, and there's always that part when you've created a book that now you hand it over to editors and publishers, which is something you technically weren't doing when you were writing briefs and motions and appeals, although, you go through editing piece. What was it like having other people interpret your thoughts, your creativity, and try to help meld the story and make it better for you?
Well, this book is self-published. So what we did was I hired a Palmetto publishing company, and they basically they hired someone to edit it. The editor was wonderful, and she didn't touch it at all. She didn't touch my style barely at all. The only thing she did was I told her, I sent her an email, and I said, I don't know who she is, I don't know her name, but she was wonderful. And I told her that I had poor punctuation, which was really true. And then what happened was, I think just one edit, you can't really do it. So it was really a labor of love on behalf of my husband. He actually sat there for weeks on end and edited it over and over again and tried to get everything right. So you can't just do it once. It needs to be a series of edits, I think. And then once we published it in September of 2018, we started giving it away to local people that we know, and hundreds of people read it, loved it. We got such great feedback from everybody locally. And then what happened was some of the people were so unbelievably wonderful. They helped edit the book. So they gave me, where there was mistakes or a typo that we had missed, they came back and told me they were so great. And I was so thankful for the outpouring of help that they had given me. So it was really remarkable. And then we had to change the manuscript a couple times to get rid of the typos. And it's pretty much set right now. I know there's one or two that still kill me, but we noticed them later, and I'm like, oh darn, there was a period missing on page 174 of the hardbacks that we printed. But I'd not worry about it.
Thank you for sharing for the listeners, whether you were a detail-oriented person or not. I guess it's good to know that the association was written almost by an association too, helping you out with the editing process. That's great.
I know. I was so thrilled and so thankful. I had people call me up, neighbors and things, saying, oh, I love this book. It's fantastic. And then I would ask them, is there a mistake? And they'd tell me where it is. And I'm like, thank you so much. But the people are just fantastic.
Sharon, I want to ask this question. This is a fun one I ask most of the guests on the show. Look, you can have those days where you're really scheduled and you're writing and your brain's going through. But, we have days that we're fluid and we're on. And then we have days we're a little off our game. When you have trouble thriving, who or what practice do you seek to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Gosh, that's a really interesting question. I guess on the days I don't really know. I like to go swimming, and okay. I have to say, when I swim, I come up with a lot of ideas. I think because it's an isolating sport. I mean, I'm not really good at it. I just do it for, leisure. I'm not a sportsman at it. But you're so into your head and thinking, and you come up with a lot of great ideas that way.
Yeah.
I'll just maybe jump in the pool or something like that.
Perfect. What would you want the listener to be the biggest takeaway? It's rare that the listener right now is getting a chance to tap into you, the author, and they're going to be excited to read about the content and hear the story and probably have their own personal relationship as well. But you as the author with a voice right now to the listener and future reader, what do you want them to take away from your the association?
Well, the one thing when I originally wrote the book, I did, the John Grisham's, The Trial, all these legal thrillers and books about law novels, they're all about the big trial. What I really wanted to portray is the practice of law in more of its realistic terms. So the practice of law can be very vicious at times. It's not an easy thing to actually do. And because there are people always want, anything to win type of mentality. But what I wanted to show is that there are other aspects of the practice of law that are really imperative in the completion of a case. So the hearings, the even just filing the documents. And I thought if I could use that kind of as a backdrop, with the story, it would be interesting, because I think a lot of people don't understand that the practice of law, like I said, can be very vicious at times, and it can also be very mundane and very boring. But I tried to do it in such a way that you could kind of see the everyday aspect of it, but then I kind of intertwined this whole story to make people excited about the book.
I think it's great. I think that, and I agree with you. Like trials, most cases rarely get to trial, and obviously that's what most movies or books have been featured on. And you have an opportunity to feature really what goes on, really the nuts and bolts of what's out there, and to weave a story in is pretty cool. I think that's awesome.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to convey. Right, because the trials almost are very non-existent in a lot of cases. I mean, they fight to settle them. But then there's all those tricky little nasty things that lawyers do to each other, and I kind of outlined some of those in the book too, and they're really kind of undermining. But the first time I've had those tricks happen to me, I remember one time I was this case did go to trial. We were in federal court, and the other side was a huge company, and they had one of the biggest law firms in the United States. And me and my partner guy, we were small time lawyers at a small practice. And anyway, they had marched people in, workers with boxes and boxes and boxes. They lined all the boxes up against the wall on their side of the room. And I was said to my attorney friend, I said, "Oh, what's this all about?" And he said, "They're all empty." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "The boxes are empty. They're trying to show that they have the evidence stacked in their favor in front of the jury." And I'm like,
I like that.
I was dumbfounded.
It's interesting. And I'll before I ask my final question to you, as you mentioned some great movies and you mentioned Grisham, I remember reading the book, The Firm, from John Grisham.
Oh, yeah.
There were chapters and chapters about making copies. I don't know if you remember, the book was a little bit different than that of the movie, and getting all those copies, created, and him recording videotapes of his testimony. And I remembered it. I go, what a mundane process this was. But obviously, what sells in the bookstores might not always sell on the screen. That's an example
of what I'm talking about.
So, last question for you here. Is there another book in your future? And Sharon Ann Ziegler, is there another one coming down the road?
Oh, yeah, I would love to write another book. I actually enjoyed the whole process of writing it. It was very exciting, and I felt good about the product after it was done, and I hope that people like it, So, yeah, I'd love to do it. And, who knows? I'm not sure when that'll be around, but when it will be arriving. But, yeah, definitely.
Well, Sharon Ann Ziegler, we will provide all the links for our listeners to connect to the book here on Bedside Readings Authors That Thrive. And thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your process, your story, why you did it, and your passion for the level of detail.
That's funny. Thank you. I really appreciate speaking with you.
Thank you for listening to Authors That Thrive, brought to you by Bedside Reading. To learn more about today's guest, head on over to bedsidereading.com. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, or follow us everywhere on social media at Bedside Reading.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.